Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dietrich, and today we are test driving an all-new Acura ZDX A-Spec. This is the entry-level model, single motor, 358 horsepower, 324 torque, an estimated range of 313 miles per the EPA, and it has good performance. That was not really full throttle, but it gets up and moves relatively quickly. Of course, they do offer a couple of more powerful versions of this. You can get a dual motor A-Spec, and then you can get a Type S. So if you need more speed, you can get it, but I think this has enough performance to be entertaining, and it does have a little bit better range than the other two because they all have the same battery pack, but of course, this being a single motor, it uses less power. The steering, of course, is Novocaine numb, being an EV, but the chassis is pretty compliant. The handling is okay. The brake feels good. You, of course, have one pedal braking on the ZDX, and you can adjust that by going into this little menu right here. It's currently set to normal. I can set it to high so that when I take my foot off of the brake, my foot off of the accelerator, it slows right down, which I kind of like on an electric car. It is a little bit more efficient that way, and I like the challenge of timing out the stop perfectly. I've never spent enough time with one to be able to do it super consistently, but the times that I have done it, it is very satisfying. I do like the sound in here. Electric cars kind of create a different sound, and this one does sound very good. And then, of course, you have the little fake noise at low speeds to let pedestrians know that there is a vehicle coming. This, of course, is built on the same chassis as a couple of different General Motors EVs, the Cadillac Lyriq, the Chevrolet Blazer, and the Acura ZDX, and the Honda Prologue. All kind of share parts and architecture and design and are actually manufactured by General Motors. Because new car development is so expensive, that's the way that manufacturers have been doing it. And GM does have a little bit more experience with building full EVs than Honda or Acura, so sort of fair enough. This car certainly looks like an Acura on the outside if you don't count the chrome trim on the A-Spec model. No other Acura A-Spec has that. I could see them doing a model update relatively soon, maybe next year, where they make it more Acura-ish. We have Bang & Olufsen sound in an Acura for the first time. It's okay, but it's not fantastic. You have standard digital gauge cluster, standard Google connected services, free data for 3 years. You actually do get pretty good standard equipment on the ZDX. Heated and cooled seats are standard. All the safety systems, parking sensors, rear cross traffic alert and front cross traffic alert. And it is fast. Even the base model feels quick. I like that. Some entry-level EVs that are admittedly less expensive than this car are pretty boring because they're not fast and they don't do anything really wrong, but they also don't do anything really right. This one is quick enough to be entertaining, and it looks very nice on the outside, and it is well equipped on the inside, which does make it potentially worth looking at if you are in the market for a electrified sport utility wagon. It's funny, it feels a little bit weak off the line, which makes no sense because, of course, EVs produce all of their torque at 0 RPM, but then once you get it up to speed, it feels better. Let's see, I got some modes. Let's see if we can't put it in a sport. All right. See if this makes a difference when the light turns green. Power telescoping steering wheel and tilt steering wheel is standard. It does, yep, it does feel a little bit quicker in sport, and it's tightened the steering up a little bit. It sounds a little, they probably pipe in slightly different noise too, because you hear it. Oh, thought I was gonna hit that Mercedes. You hear it in sport. You hear it, that's interesting. That's funny. Gives you more noise. If I was gonna buy a ZDX, I think this is the one that I would take. I wouldn't spend the extra money because I'm not gonna drive the EV in the snow, so I don't need all-wheel drive. The Type S does have a lot more extra equipment. The Type S gives you like the surround view cameras, the heads-up display, the hands-free driving on the highways. So there's maybe an argument to be made for the Type S if you want all that extra stuff, but it is about $10,000 more than this car, and quite frankly, this car has a longer range, better MPGe, and feels fast and satisfying enough for me to drive. So I guess if I was going to pick one, I'd just take the base. I don't need a black roof or 22-inch wheels, which are both things that the Type S have. This is good. The Google Maps is interesting. It's set up perfectly for an EV because you can tell it to get you directions to a certain spot, and if it's like a long highway drive, it'll tell you where to stop off to charge and give you estimations as to how long it thinks that's going to take, so you have a total trip time. So that's very well tuned for an electric vehicle. This thing actually does feel sporty to drive, especially in sport mode. The sport mode does its job. I like this car more than I thought I would. I was not overly excited about a bad sharing job between Acura and General Motors, to be honest with you, but I do think that it turned out well because it drives nicely, it's well equipped, and it looks good. And it does qualify for the $7,500 government tax chinga, so that takes some of the sting out of the $65,000 price point. So if you've never driven an electric vehicle and you don't know what I'm talking about when I say one-pedal driving, what it is, when I have my foot on the accelerator right now, if I take my foot off the accelerator, it feels very much like I have applied the brakes because the car just slows down that much. And it's meant to regenerate electric energy and put it back into the batteries to get you a little bit better efficiency and a little bit extended range. The ride on this car is not bad either. That's a pretty messed up section of pavement, and even in sport mode, pretty smooth as far as that goes. So that's what one-pedal driving is. And in a car like this, let me see if I can time it. All right, I'm letting off the accelerator. I have now, I got to give it a little more. It's going to slow down too much. So I barely have my foot on the accelerator now, and I'm letting off, and I got to give it just a little bit. There. So it just brought itself to a complete stop without me putting my foot on the brake. And that's one-pedal driving, because you don't have to use the brake pedal unless it's an emergency situation where somebody cuts you off. And then if I want to creep forward a little bit, I just use the accelerator very lightly and let off of it. And there we go. Again, brought itself to a complete stop. I didn't touch the brake pedal. I don't have my foot on the brake pedal. The car is auto holding where it is. And that's one-pedal driving for you. It's a little quirk of an EV. And you can kind of turn it off in this one if you don't like it, but if you're going to drive one of these on a daily basis, it's certainly something to get used to, because in theory it will give you a little bit more range. It's not going to make a massive difference, but it makes the EV powertrain a little bit more efficient if you're able to recoup some of the kinetic energy off of the road. So I'm going to try it again here. I don't know what it was beeping at me for. It thought somebody was coming somewhere. And there we go. Brought it so. That was good. That was good. Big round of applause to me. I pretty much stopped it right where I wanted it to be, and I didn't have to goose it along too much. And I didn't run over the old lady or the bicyclist who came flying by. So I will consider that a success. And I will also consider this Acura ZDX a success. I think that this is a nice car. The market for electric vehicles is cooling off, I think, is the proper way to put it in car business terms right now. So hopefully this car will be successful. It's possible that it won't be, but only time will tell. But I hope that it is, because it looks nice and it drives nice. And if you have any questions for me, please put them in the comments. I will put a link to my full description of this car my full review, of this car in the description. And as always, have a great day, like my video, subscribe to my channel, and drive safely. Bye-bye.